All right, today we're starting with Uranus, and this is the first of the far outer planets. And these planets are very dramatic and rather extreme. Their effects can easily be seen and really noticeable. It's almost, when you talk about these people, they're often usually coming in because something of a Uranian or Neptunian or Pluto nature is coming. It's either about to happen or happening or just finishing. And it's challenging everything else. So really up till now, we looked at Saturn, which is your main time perspective, your main anchor in the time. It's what's practical, it's what's normal, what's structured. It's what gauges your health, your maturity, and how you're growing. And once Saturn's in place, if you understand it properly, then your Jupiter understanding becomes wise. Then you can guide your Mars wisely, and it gets you into a lot less anger, upsets, misguided actions, and you accomplish more. So the Saturn, we spent the most time, it's the primary factor. And in really, you really get guiding everyone according to Saturn. Saturn, learning how to Jupiter, how you are, get your understanding to work within your responsibilities or within your time within Saturn, and directing your actions in line with that. And that's the formula for successful accomplishment. Now, Uranus, the outer planets, so everything within Saturn within, it's kind of normal, it's practical. It's perhaps boring, perhaps tedious, basically structured, practical. But as soon as you start taking the outer planets, they're all challenges to Saturn. The outer planets tend to disrupt the order and the laws and the rules and the structure and the karma of Saturn. And they try and hype it up and pump it to go further, to go faster, to go further than your normal defenses. And sometimes that can be incredibly good, but there's always a cost. And oftentimes it leads to a real disruption of your normal plans, okay, of your normal structure. And it can damage things or can break things, and you're having to repair. Once it's done, once it's played its role, you have to come back and get back on track with Saturn to begin with. You're always having, if something takes you away from Saturn, you got to get back to eventually you have to come back to the Saturn plan. Ideally, when you know astrology, you can see these disruptions or changes coming, and you're working with your Saturn to be prepared for these challenges. So, okay, with Uranus, we're talking about the first planet outside of Saturn. It's at 84, it takes 84 years to go around the zodiac. So 84 years, it's once in a lifetime. Everything that happens, every time it makes an aspect, it's never made that aspect before until you're past 84. It's always, there's nothing else to compare it to. With Saturn, once you pass 29, once you get to 29, 30, you start repeating. It's like a deja vu. What you went through as a kid, you're going through as an adult. And then let's say in your 58 and on, you start getting it as a senior, and you go through the same patterns. So it's like a spiral, and you can usually see what happened the last time and how it's relevant to what's happening now. That's the part of the magic of Saturn. Sometimes what happened 30 years ago is exactly related to what you're supposed to be doing now. But with Uranus, it's once in a lifetime. It goes around once. The other two other planets, they never even get all the way around. You can never experience a whole cycle of them. But if we live to 84, we get to live through a whole Uranus cycle. So you could say that's probably the beginning of our second childhood, or beginning of a new way of looking at things. when we're working with Uranus in the natal chart, Uranus is the planet of innovation and excitement. Excitement, I consider it excitement, but it would include innovation, sudden change, radical things. We see a place where there's a need to be exceptional or different or independent or high-strung, wherever Uranus is in your chart. It destabilizes but excites whatever house it's in. So wherever Uranus is, it's not a place you're going to be conventional. And if you're being conventional, it's going to cause a lot of anxiety or worries. Sometimes one works to counter Uranus excessively. I'll never trust being independent. It's too risky. I'm going to be super safe. And sometimes people reverse react to it, which causes Uranus to become the planet of anxiety, of high worry, of stress and high worry. But we can see the factors of Uranus somewhat in the houses, and we sort of intuitively get a sense of how it works with the signs. But in the aspects, when the aspects in your natal chart, you can notice when there's a Uranus aspect. It's a noticeable factor of this, what do you call it, instability or distinctions or high-strungness that's there. When we put it into the transits, we really get vivid, dramatic things happening in our life at the times Uranus aspects happen. So Uranus ends up being the planet of excitement and sudden change, is also the planet of shock and disruption and upsets and sudden change. There's tremendous Uranus destabilizes. It can excite it and free things, but it's freeing things by destabilizing them and using up resources or accomplishments you've had. You got this, so go further, take it further. Again, sometimes that's brilliant and excitable. More often than not, it's that you're managing the repercussions of Uranus. You're navigating through a Uranus aspect. Now, a Saturn aspect goes on and off across a little less than a year. You'll get a conjunction, retrograde back, you get another conjunction. It goes forward to make another, and then it moves on. All the other planets will do this. They'll have 3, but it's over a slightly longer period of time. So Uranus aspect will for sure last. They'll be on and off for a year, maybe a year and a bit. And when Uranus is within a degree aspect of anything, it's going to last longer. Each individual hit will last longer than Saturn, unless it's right at the stationary point where it holds station between going retrograde and direct and retrograde. Then Saturn or the other planets can sit on there for months or for many weeks anyways. Now, so when you're thinking positively or constructively about Uranus, it's times of great excitement and great change, of breaking through to something new, of breaking through to a new excitement, to a new level of insight, which can be incredibly exciting and really change your life. But even if it comes through as exciting and makes seemingly a positive change, it's going to take an awful lot of work, Saturn, to stabilize it. And if you're going to make the most of it and get that excitement, you're way better off if you've been preparing and planning for it and building up special skills or special things to be prepared for the excitement. So it's fairly simple, this idea of excitement, change, sudden change, but it's been interpreted, Uranus has been interpreted as a revolutionary planet because it revolts, it causes change, or alternates things. I think revolutionary isn't necessarily the best word, but it's kind of like that. It changes things, the need for change. But often the need to change, if you're holding on to something that's no longer valid, or you're doing work that you're no longer supposed to be doing, or you're doing stuff that you're not good at, or Uranus will come along and it will disrupt it. You'll lose the job. Things will disrupt. You won't be able to stay there. So usually behind Uranus, there's a lot of things that have to be let go of. And it's like if it's not a breakthrough, it's almost like a breakdown because you're having to let go of things. And sometimes it's your favorite things you have to let go of. Sometimes you have to let go and you don't even want it. Usually there's not even a choice of it at that time. So if you're attached to someone and the relationship is codependent or difficult and not working, Uranus will come like great disruptions to it. It will break it up. And it takes a lot longer to recover. Well, it doesn't necessarily. Uranus can be dealt with quickly. You just have to let go and move on. But it can also hit you, and if you get frozen emotionally in a disruptive moment, you can hold on to this anxiety and live in this nervousness or worry. I can never rebuild. I can never get over that. And nothing will ever be the same. And you can hold on that for years. And the longer you hold on to it, more anxiety and the more disruption will come. And the less you'll be able to accomplish things or achieve things or gain respect or even just stability. So Saturn's your self-discipline. Uranus tends to say, never mind your self-discipline, try this, do this, go, reach out. And sometimes we have to do that, but there's repercussions to that. There's disruptions and repercussions that come from anything Uranus touches. So when we're watching it across a lifetime, it really divides the 84 years. And ideally, that's 21, 42, 63, and 84 when we're those years old. Now, Uranus has an eccentric orbit, so it's not exactly uniform. Like one half may happen in 39 years and the other half may happen in 40. It depends where in the cycle you're born. So, but basically it comes back to itself in 84 years. And the first, when you're born, life is a shock. We have our body, we have the bag of bones or skin that we're born in, we have our muscles that go within it, and we start to move. But initially, it starts with the shock of being separated from our mom. We're no longer two souls in the body. Pop! And there's sensitivity and work to be done as you start moving and eating and get breathing for ourselves. So that's the shock of the beginning natal moment. And then we're just trying to do our own thing. I'm trying this, we're trying to do our thing. We got all the basic things, developing our mind, our values, what we like, we don't like, our confidence, our energy, our muscles. We're trying to see what we can do and expand it with Jupiter to see what we can accomplish. And the first cycle of Saturn's 30 to 30, but we have the first three quadrants of the Saturn cycle. It goes 0 to 21. We have the first 7 years, second 7 to 14, and 14 to 21. So home, grade school, high school, university. So, but this is first 21 years of your life. And you have to remember, a lot depends on how Uranus is in your natal chart. If you have a Uranus in your natal chart, it's not causing any disruptive energies. It's not so shocking or disruptive. It doesn't mean there won't be disruptions in your life. It just means there won't be so extremely there. If you have these strong things in your chart, they'll be a regular presence and they'll be brought out more dramatically whenever there's an aspect. But at 21, I call it pseudo-maturity because we're legal age. By finally we're legal age. And we're just trying to see, really the first 21 years, just trying to see what we can do, what we can get, how we can fit in, what we can do that's our own independent thing, who we are, what's the unique person we are, or negatively, how unique we're not, or how we don't fit in.